Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Our award-winning show is back, and this season promises to be even more exciting than before. What's Up, Doc isn't just a title, it's a call to action for anyone who wants to improve their health and well-being. Join us on this thrilling ride towards better health on WESN Content Capital.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for. It's called loss and damage, and we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
WESN.
Good morning and welcome to AM Prime on WESN. My name is Jada McLeod. I thank you so much for starting your morning with me right now. So it is Thursday. So did you know that it's also World Environment Day? Yeah. Plastic pollution permeates every corner of the planet, even in our bodies in the form of microplastics. World Environment Day 2025 calls for collective action to tackle plastic pollution. We always hear about the plastics are ruining the environment, the plastics are ruining the environment, and on every corner of the earth there's somebody that's really passionate about this, and it can sometimes come across as a little bit of annoying, but it's a true thing, and we should be paying a little bit more attention to how many single-use plastics that we use every single day. So the United Nations is calling us to join the hashtag Beat Plastic Pollution movement, because together we can create a healthier future. So what they're asking is for you to head to your socials, or just even tell a friend that today is World Environment Day and hashtag Beat the Plastics Pollution. All right, so before we jump into our first interview of the day, remember that you can, of course, find us on our YouTube, our Facebook, where you can leave your comments and suggestions for us to engage with you. If you're seeing up there on the screen, on Facebook, it's WESN TV or WESN CC on YouTube, or you can WhatsApp us at the number that you see on your screen. So head there now and engage with us as we go through our discussions for the day. All right. So today's a very special day. If you know anything about me, I love artificial intelligence. I'm a huge buff for it. I want to know everything that's going on in the artificial intelligence space. So a couple of weeks ago, we promised you guys that we were going to have somebody, an expert on to talk about artificial intelligence as it relates to education, specifically tertiary education. So today, we're joined by a notably remarkable mind operating at the intersection of technology and education, Dr. Amit Neil Ramkissoon, a proud product of the University of the West Indies. Dr. Ramkissoon holds a PhD in computer science with cutting-edge research in computational social systems, fake news detection, and data mining. His doctoral thesis, titled Veracity, a computational social system for fake news detection in infrastructureless social networks, reflects his commitment to tackling real-world problems using AI-driven innovation. He also holds a master's in computer science, where he developed a mobile application for Alzheimer's disease diagnosis, and a bachelor's in information technology. Dr. Ramkissoon has continually pushed the boundaries of how technology can serve humanity. What I also learned about him is that he has published 14 peer-reviewed papers, a book chapter, and a preprint to date. He is currently an editorial board member for the Primera Scientific Engineering Association. And as we explore the evolving role of artificial intelligence in our lives, this morning we are placing a focus on AI in tertiary education. Dr. Ramkissoon brings a rare blend of technical expertise and research depth in the conversation of how AI can transform learning, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but the wider Caribbean and beyond. So good morning, Dr. Ramkissoon. How are you doing?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am quite well. I hope everyone is well. And as I start off, I just wanted to lead in on the conversation on World Environment Day.
For sure.
Because it's strange that last night I bought dinner, and I was just thinking to myself, I had like what 4 or 5 containers for myself and others, and I'm just thinking to myself how much waste is in styrofoam and these containers that we purchase, and we're just going to discard them after.
Yeah.
And it's also an impact, just like the plastics that they have on the environment as well.
Yeah, I would agree, and I'm somebody that engages in that as well. Sometimes, you know, you're just hungry or you just want to get a quick something to drink, and it's efficient that it comes in something plastic, but then you have to toss it because you have no more use for it. So it's something that I want people to pay more mind to. So if you can, probably get a reusable bottle, something like that, and it's something so small. The onus isn't only on the individual, it's on, of course, bigger companies that are causing the most harm to the environment. But as an individual, that personal autonomy to just replace some plastic stuff with something that's more reusable. And I would hope that you would agree.
Yes, I agree with you on that one. It's just it's small things that can help us to reach that goal, to try and help protect and preserve the environment.
I would agree right there. So, Dr. Ramkissoon, I know it's pretty early. How are you doing this morning? What is usually your morning routine? How do you kickstart your own day?
My morning routine, as I normally tell my class, it's similar to that of what we call congestion control in networks. And congestion control in networks, if anyone has ever done it, they know that when you hit to a congestion, you normally drop down to 0, and then you go into what is called a slow start. And you increment back to trying to get back to possibly about half the level of the network congestion that there was before. So normally my morning is a slow start. That's why I brought that up.
All right. Because when you were going there, I was like, okay, I need to research what that is. Because I mean, you're essentially a scientist. You're a doctor. You know, you're an expert at certain things. So when you were talking, I was like, oh, I need to keep up. So can you just go over it a little bit more? How does it correlate to it being a slow start?
So in networking and on a network, when you have congestion, you have what is called congestion control mechanisms. And when the congestion control, the name of the congestion control mechanism is called CSMACD. And when this CSMACD activates, when you hit, when they realize that there is congestion or there's a collision in the network, all the network traffic drops to 0. When it drops to 0, then you incrementally increase the traffic to about half the rate that was previously known as. And that incremental increase is what you call slow start. So that incremental increase to half the rate that was previously at. So that's the slow start period. And then you go to about half, and then if at that half you meet a congestion again, you drop down to 0, and then you increment again, and so forth. And that's how congestion control on networks operate.
Thank you so much. You explained that so well for me just now.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I guess it comes out as you being a teacher. It's right up your alley. Yeah?
I try my best. I try to use a lot of examples in my explanations.
So let's dive right into the topic of artificial intelligence. So I'm just going to briefly explain the importance of it, because sometimes when I tell people that artificial intelligence is the next big thing, it's something that we should be paying attention to, they're like, why? You know, it's just Copilot, or it's just ChatGPT. It's nothing too big. But if you're an avid viewer of the show, you'd realize that we speak about advancements in AI quite frequently. And what we've realized is that AI enhances teaching and learning and supports research. It enables personalized learning, automates administrative tasks. I use it for that. Facilitates research, and as a student, it usually prepares us for the future, because AI is it's all in the workplace now, that the workplace is trying to figure out how to integrate AI into their systems. So by the time that the students go into the workforce, it's going to be full-fledged. So we're going to need to be able to know how to navigate and, more importantly, master it. So on the flip side, there are, and I'm sure you would agree with this, Dr. Ramkisoon, ethical considerations, possibly even legal ones, where we're talking about the legislated implementation or integration of artificial intelligence into our education system, higher or tertiary education. But I'm not going to get too ahead of myself right now. So Dr. Ramkisoon, as someone who has studied and has been in the research of AI for quite some time, how would you define the current relationship between AI and tertiary education?
Okay, so let's start with what is AI? AI is the latest buzzword, and everyone you talk to, everyone around the corner, everyone knows AI, right? You ask them, what does it stand for? They know artificial intelligence. But artificial intelligence, though it seems like it just popped up in the 2020s or maybe late 2010s, artificial intelligence has been around since probably the 1950s and 1960s. And what we know today as artificial intelligence is actually called generative AI. But artificial intelligence, the core underpin artificial intelligence, has been around, as I said, since the 1950s and 1960s. You have things like expert systems, genetic algorithms, artificial neural networks. They've all been around. We've studied them. In preparation for this interview, I went and I dusted off one of my old textbooks that I have next to me, and I learned artificial intelligence at UE in around, that was 2011, right? And that's before we ever had any idea of the generative AI coming about. So artificial intelligence, to explain what it is basically a computer trying to simulate human knowledge. So a computer, and not knowledge per se, but human thinking and intuition. So you're trying to say that a computer basically can think like a human. It can create knowledge, it can make decisions like a human being. And that's what artificial intelligence is. And we're using human behavior to simulate that. The most common, and the most widely used method is what you call artificial neural networks. Once you hear the term neural, anyone out there, you should know that neural speaks to the brain. Right? So what we have done is that in computer science, we realized that there are a lot of things that we can simulate from nature. All right, I myself work on nature-inspired algorithms for feature optimization. So realizing that, we said, okay, we can make the computer think like a human brain. So thinking like a human brain, we have created what's called an artificial neural network. And an artificial neural network, you have neurons just like you have in your brain, and they're all connected to each other in a very complex map. Basically, if you look at the diagram for artificial neural network, it's a lot of lines just going all over the place. It's connected to a lot of dots, which are what we call nodes on the network. And this artificial neural network is basically made to map the thinking of a human being. So artificial neural networks, the underpinning of artificial intelligence, and you have things like expert systems, genetic algorithms. Genetic algorithms use the idea of evolution, and it's called evolutionary computing. And they use the idea of how evolution works, how our DNA swaps, and we have chromosomes and pieces go from here to there, and genes, and etc. And that uses that knowledge and that science to basically also create to have artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. Now, let's come to the topic at hand. Generative AI came about in 2014, 2015, around there, right? And what made generative AI so explosive is now that you have artificial intelligence that basically could have been what's called unsupervised. You had previously you had a lot of supervised artificial intelligence. And supervised means is that you know what the input is, you know what the output is, but you want basically the system to figure out the middle. Yes. So I know I live in Chaguanas, I know where Port of Spain is, mm-hmm. and now I want that the computer figure out how to get me from Chaguanas to Port of Spain. Right, and that's what the middle is there. So that's supervised learning. What has happened with unsupervised learning is that now you just provide the input, and you don't know where the output is going to be, but you just provide in this input, and you allow the system to figure out the output. A lot of times via what is known as clustering, and then let it figure out the output, and that came. With the rise of methods like generative adversarial networks, GANs, and autoencoders, these are unsupervised or semi-supervised learning methods. And because of the rise of these methods and the invention of these methods, they allowed now for the computer to basically think, for want of a better term, and basically figure out things on its own without you providing a labeled output for it. And this provided a whole new era for AI, and that's why we're in the world of generative AI. Generative AI actually gets its name from the fact that you have models like a generative adversarial network, a GAN, and that's where you get the idea of generative AI. And that has taken the world by storm, and that's where we are at today now with it. Now, in terms of... Sorry, go ahead. My bad.
Just to clarify, generative is like derivative. It's learning from humans.
Well, it's learning, but it's also generating on its own. Now, and this is a debate that I had. It's coincidental that you contacted me for this interview, and having this conversation with two of my senior lecturers at UWI, mm-hmm. and the fact that does the computer really learn, mm-hmm. and is it and because how machine learning and AI works is that it uses prehistoric data, and using that prehistoric data, it then builds a model basically on that prehistoric data to predict future data, much like how weather forecasting works. Mm-hmm. The weather forecasting, they'll use that, okay, on the 6th, today is the 5th of June, sorry. On the 5th of June, for the last 20 years, there has been sunshine. For the last month, there has been sunshine, so we could probably predict that on the 5th of June, today is going to have sunshine as well. So, and that's how machine learning normally works, and generative AI is built upon that. So, is the computer really learning? But then the computer as well is now using text. It's now taking text and and transforming that text into understanding what you're asking. So you go to methods like, you go to powerhouses like things like ChatGPT and Gemini or Copilot and all of these, and you ask it, okay, help explain to me how does artificial intelligence fit into computer science. Just asking them, right? And it's able to manipulate that language using what we call text mining and knowledge engineering, and take that language and break it down into understanding what you ask, builds what is called a knowledge graph at the background, and it follows the lines of the graph to figure out exactly what you ask, and it's be able to then convert that using what we call natural language processing, and understand what you're saying, and then present a pretty accurate response to it. Mm-hmm. So then there is some sense of intuition in there. So that's the debate that we've been having. Is it really learning, or is this their real intelligence, or is it just training? I mean, as I use my simplistic example, if you put your hand in a fire, and you get burnt, then the second time you see a fire, I doubt you'll put your hand in that fire again.
Okay.
So then, therefore, now that's learning. You learned that my hand in the fire means burning, so therefore I will not do it. So that's the same thing as the machine does. So is that intelligence? Is it learning? And that's where the debate is at the moment.
I could understand that. Then there's also an ethical issue there where it's learning off of the backs of humans. So I mean, the computer didn't put its hand in the fire. The humans did, and the humans reported on that, and the AI is taking, or the computer is taking that information and is able to create some sort of answer, some sort of competent answer, hopefully, for you. Yeah?
Yeah, and that's exactly what it's doing. And that's how the learning on it has been happening. So in the earlies, when you use these models, they would not have been the most accurate. For example, I could tell you from experience with ChatGPT. ChatGPT at the very beginning did provide some answers, but were the answers immediately 100% accurate? They aren't, because the model keeps learning. And excuse me. Here's how the model learns. Even when you ask questions, like we just asked, how does artificial intelligence fit into computer science? Even when you ask questions like that, if the model does not know the answer, the model will learn from your query to try and figure out the answer, right? So every time you ask something, so it feeds off your input as well, because that's how machine learning occurs. It uses the input for retraining to then retrain the model to make it more accurate to what the output is expected. So therefore, that's how the learning is occurring. It's an ongoing learning process.
So when we're talking about generative AI, let's zero in on, say, something like ChatGPT. How do you think universities in Trinidad and Tobago right now are responding to ChatGPT? And I'll give it some context. My university, I attend COSTAT. They put out an AI statement. It's quite comprehensive, governing the lecturers' response to artificial intelligence, the uses, the non-uses, what they encourage, what they don't encourage, for both lecturers and students. And when I saw that, it was coming on to the end of my final exams, and I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know that they had this. So I didn't realize that my school was going to be so responsive in that way. Is that something UB is looking at as well?
So, because I'm not here in an official capacity representing UE, I could just speak from my personal opinion, and I know that I've heard and I've seen that UE is working on a artificial intelligence policy, how it guides artificial intelligence at university. But if we think about how AI is being used in universities, let's look at it. When ChatGPT came out, I think around 2022, I believe, November 2022 was the first time I heard of it. And when I heard of this, I was like, wow, because it was a revolutionary. It was, it's going to be something so strange. And I said, I doubt this will ever take hold, to local capacity. And within a year, you have all of our students, they have access, they know how to use it and stuff like that. And that's not bad talk, the elephant in the room. ChatGPT or a generative AI can be used for both good and bad, as you mentioned in the beginning. So for the good of it, and how I would advise any tertiary level student, use it to generate questions. Then use it to generate summaries of lectures. You can now feed the video of your lecture, and it will take that entire video and it will make bullet points out of it. Those are really remarkable things to help you, because learning occurs in different ways. So if people are learning, if they can't learn by looking at a 3-hour video and you need bullet points or whatever to help you learn, then therefore you feed it the video and it will spit out a summary for you, spit out the bullet points for you. So those are all good things. You can use it to help you generate questions. If you need multiple choice questions, you don't know how the multiple choice questions are going to come in your exam. You feed it your notes, and it will generate multiple choice questions, and it will also generate answers for you. I'll put a caveat to all of that to tell you that the models are still learning.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to calculation-based queries. We have realized that the models are not the best or the most accurate in their calculation-based queries. So it may give you an answer that may not necessarily be correct as it relates to those things. Because it is, at the end of the day, it's GPT, it's using a generative pre-trained transformer at the back, and it is a large language model at the end of the day. Right, so it's supposed to be really based upon language. So it's text mining, taking language, trying to break it down to figure out what you're asking. But in terms of the calculations, it's still working on those things. Now let's look at the negative side of it. What's the negatives of having this in the tertiary education world? Well, the immediate thing that comes to mind, plagiarism and cheating. Students now, instead of figuring out the assignment on their own, they just feed the assignment to ChatGPT. 5 minutes later, they get an answer, they polish it up a bit, and they submit that. Right? So it has taken away from the student the ability to learn. If they go along that quote unquote, let me say, lazy method, and they just feed the assignment into ChatGPT, everything they feed into ChatGPT, then there is no learning in the human being to understand, well, how you get this, right? How do you get AX plus B is equal to C? Why is it that way? You just know that is so, and therefore you take that as wholesale.
What if you learned, what if a student argued that they could learn from that? So they put, let's say, a math problem into ChatGPT, and then they asked ChatGPT to explain the answer to them. They would have gotten the answer, but they would have also gotten an explanation. Maybe they didn't learn in the class, or ChatGPT is became a tutor to them. How do you feel about that?
And that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So you just described it as scenario. Yes, use it for those kind of things. If you come to a class and maths, that same AX plus B equal to C problem that's the formula for a straight line, right? And that gave me problems for a lot of secondary school, because I missed the session on gradient in secondary school, and therefore it gave me problems. So if it is that you have problems with understanding how the formula for the gradient of a line works, right? Or how the formula for a straight line works, then yes, you submit it to ChatGPT and ask, can you explain this to me? And it spits out a whole explanation, and you read through that, and you're able to say, oh, okay, I now understand. It gives you an example, or can you ask it to explain more? That is good usage of the generative AI. It's helping you. But then when you think about when you just send it, okay, these are my assignment questions, answer these questions, and it gives you answers, and you just take that and you submit that as your assignment. You haven't read, you haven't internalized, you have not made the link between the input and the output. Why is it that way? So all you're doing, you're just taking it and you submitting that. That is where the unethical and the ways of learning may not line up with how a human should learn.
So I'll be very transparent. Sometimes when I use ChatGPT, I do feel a bit guilty, because even though I may be doing something that would be considered ethically okay, for example, if I use it to help with administrative tasks with my business, I'm like, but I should be putting in this work though. I should be quote unquote hustling. Because if I ask ChatGPT to cut down on, maybe it would take me 20 minutes to read a document myself, to summarize it, ChatGPT can do it under like a second. Yeah, so sometimes I'm like, that's me cheating. So do you think there's any merit in saying that using something like ChatGPT, using something like ChatGPT is a cheat, even if you're using it for something that we think is quite ethical? For example, I know some people were talking about artificial intelligence. Yes, it's the big new thing, but we shouldn't be scared of it, because it's just like the advent of the calculator. We don't have to do handwritten maths anymore, because we can just put it into a calculator. Do you want to ban the calculator? No. So why would you want to ban ChatGPT? What's your response to this?
So I'm glad you brought that up, and that's always been peeve with me now with generative AI. I still feel as if I'm cheating with generative AI, because I tell myself it's dumbing me down, because now once the immediate thing that I think about, well, okay, I need to write a letter, okay, I sit down by my laptop and I start to type, and then I'm like, I get writer's block, and then first thing that comes to mind, oh, let me just go to ChatGPT and let ChatGPT generate this for me. All right, and yes, it would generate a nice letter. You would make a few edits and fine. But then, and to me, I fight against it hardest at Linus, because I feel as if it's making, I still see it as taboo, and a lot of people in tertiary education, they still see it as taboo. And what we need to adopt as tertiary education professionals, we need to now take this technology and not leave it as taboo, but apply it to our scenario and work it into the scenario rather than leaving it out. As you just mentioned, the calculator. If the calculator was seen as taboo many moons ago, now the calculator has become part of the course for any exam, any assignment, any assessment that you're doing, because you need it to make large calculations. So in the same manner, find a way and a space to fit ChatGPT or generative AI into how you deliver your education to your classes. I know at the UE, many of my colleagues in my department, they are now using it, as I say, to generate quizzes and generate questions. They're now, and the way humans learn, if I just take this aside, or students learn, we have noticed, has changed dramatically since the advent of COVID.
How so?
When we were all forced to go online. So students now, in the days pre-COVID, you would attend class, you ingest all that the lecturer was saying, you'll make notes, then by the end of the semester, you either revise or you cram the night before in preparation for the exam, and then you write your exam and stuff like that. Now students are learning when they choose to learn. So they all have videos, they all have material that is online to them. And then when they're ready, they now ingest the material at the rate that they wish. So they look at the video when they want, they pull out of the video pieces that they think are necessary, etc. And it's no longer at the lecturer's pace that they learn at when they choose, because they now have the content and the knowledge. So in the same way, because that has changed, you have to implement and ease generative AI into the learning process and help it along to increase the learning process for our students.
So your PhD, it focused on fake news detection. Well, there's a part of it in that, in infrastructureless networks. So what did you learn about how this may apply to misinformation in, say, student research or academia in general?
And we talk about generative AI, that is, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, so my PhD, my primary focus for my PhD work is fake news detection. And generative AI has given the rise to fake news, fake videos, deep fakes. As we know, I have a couple published works on not just deep fakes, but fake video on a whole. I'm doing one on fake audio right now with a couple of students. And fake news on a whole, because it's generative. You asked it to create a picture. 2 months or 3 months ago, everybody was on this Gilby, excuse my pronunciation, hype, where everybody was doing these cartoonized pictures of themselves, right? And that's what it did. It took a photo of you and it generated a cartoon version of it, right? It put it together and spit it out of what it looked like. So it can generate anything. It can generate anything you ask, depending upon the training that it has, because that's the nature of the beast. So it has given a rise to a lot of fake news, a lot of misinformation and disinformation, and that's why methods like what I have implemented are needed even more and more. And as you go along, IEEE's tech predictions that they put out every year, they always have misinformation and disinformation as one of the major sore points that they are trying to solve each year go by.
So when I think of fake news, I remember watching an influencer, if you will, that I like, and she was talking about the rise of as you were saying, deep fakes. So there's this popular news session going on with a lady who's presenting the news, and it's fake. It's obviously fake. They're making up things about U.S. President Donald Trump, making up things about Chinese ministers, even Caribbean ministers, just going around and putting whatever information you want, and then the lady says it, and it goes across your Instagram and Facebook channels. And especially if you're part of the older population, you know, you just learn how to properly type out to take a selfie, you're seeing that and you're just thinking, well, that's news. So you're running with the US President Donald Trump does X, Y, and Z when he didn't do X, Y, and Z. So how dangerous is that? And then my two-part question, what do we do about something like that?
Wonderful. Now, Jada, I know we're only here for a couple more minutes, but you want bringing this topic up, you want me to talk for a couple more hours now. and no, because how dangerous is this? This is extremely dangerous because it's now putting us and our lives in danger and in risk. Because you can have people going out there in these videos. You see them every day. If you scroll social media, you'll see videos of a plane crashing into a mountain and plane transforming into a robot and all of these things. All right. I bring up planes because I am a plane spotter enthusiast.
Oh, beautiful.
And yes. And so therefore, you see these things, and if to the unknowing mind, you'll say, oh, really, boy, a plane could transform into a robot, into a human? Yeah. And therefore, it can fool you. And that's the purpose of fakes. It's meant to fool you, and it's meant to put you in a sense of panic, in a sense of fear, in a sense of crisis, right? If you hear, every 2 weeks you'll hear in Trinidad somebody saying, wasa shut down, so it doesn't have water or gas short, and you see a long line by the gas station just appear for no reason, right? It's meant to put you in a panic to bring about fear. What do people achieve by these things? People may be achieving some motive. Maybe they have some reason to try and get you to panic, some reason to want to buy gas. You never know, right? So that's what fake news and videos like deepfakes do. Deepfakes, if we were to explain, it uses what is called deep learning. So remember at the beginning, we spoke about artificial neural networks. Deep learning takes a whole different level to artificial neural networks. Instead of artificial neural network, in the middle section, say has about 10 layers or something like that. The things like deep learning carries it down, and you can have hundreds of layers within the middle section of artificial neural networks. And that's why it's called deep learning, because it goes deep into the network before it comes out to the output. So therefore, the computational power behind this is a lot more. So therefore, it is able to create videos. You're able to swap faces. You're able to like me speaking to you here. We could put your face on my body and have you saying what I am saying. So that's the thing that's what deepfakes do. And these are meant, as I said, to create panic, create chaos, to drive people to a point for some sort of agenda. Now, how do we deal with this? You ask. Vigilance. Vigilance.
Okay.
Vigilance. So when I say vigilance, you have to be out there being vigilant. You have to be looking at everything that you post. Now, because I am an expert in the area of fake news detection, I probably and I know what to look for.
You give it better off.
Correct. It's easier for me than the layperson. But what you have to do is just always, for example, you see a video someone shared, look at where it came from. A lot of times you can just look at the URL, and the URL that it comes from is abcxyz.xyz. And therefore you can know that clearly came from a fake source. You get an email. A lot of times things come in your email telling you, oh, your PayPal account has been blocked, your Amazon account has been blocked. Or your credit card number has been exposed. Click this link to retrieve your credit card or something like that. And in that situation, you don't even have a PayPal account. So then, therefore, why are you even bothering to click on the link?
Yeah.
Right? Look at the sources where it came from. When you look at the source, you would see some weird email address again. Then you'd see that look at the nature of what you're sharing. Does the text and does the annotation to it, does it seem to be legit? A lot of times it has like weird characters inside there. A lot of times foreign characters. When verify what you're sharing out there as well. When you go to verify, you cross-check on websites, like immediately if I see something like this, say some kind of natural disaster has occurred or whatever, first thing I do, I go to Google and I check. Okay, I see things like news websites, and I check to see, well, okay, legitimate news websites that we know that you can get legitimate news from, and you see that they report the same thing, then you say, oh, okay, but then this is true. So you verify your news, verify from a verified source, right? Just like your TV station. These are stations. These are people that we know can provide us with verified news. So you check to see whether whether these sources carrying the same thing.
How do you think we can mass produce this checklist of information for the average citizen Jane or citizen Joe?
When you say mass produce, I mean it's
mass publicize, put it out there for
right. And to give credit to the UE Guild of Students, they hosted a cybersecurity workshop on the same topic last October, and they started and just bringing back our conversation back to tertiary education. They hosted this for our students to help our students understand and learn these same things, understand how to look out for fake videos, how to look out for deep fakes, right? Understand the harm of sharing them, what they are, understanding what's a social engineering attack, these kind of things, and they were able to sensitize our students. The same way, I think we can. It's simple. We need to just put it out there. Always. Little notices for people out there to verify what you're sharing, validate what's being shared, be vigilant on the lookout for fake videos. Look at the video. If you one key thing in the early days of the video was that with a fake video, the person never blinked.
Yes.
In normal conversation between you and I, we are blinking all the time. Yes. But in a fake video, the person never blinked. In the early days, the teeth would never. They could never close the lips.
Yeah, there was always a delay. There was always a delay.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. So these kind of things. So we just need to inform our loved ones, inform those around us, to pay attention. If they don't know, tell them to check with you who may be better able to look at it to help verify these kind of things.
So in your opinion, and this station is not for either government or anything like that, we cover everything, but in your opinion, without proper or strict governmental legislation, do you think universities are equipped to deal with AI generated essays, fake citations, misinformation, or just the ethical considerations about using AI to have an output of work?
So I know at the University of West Indies, they have, we have used the Turnitin software for a long time now, right? And the Turnitin software has been used to check for plagiarism. So what it does is that it verifies, and this was the days pre-generative AI. It would check to see if what you copied can be found in articles on the internet and stuff like that. And produces you a rather colorful report and highlights in different colors where you copied things from in red and blue and stuff like that. And now with generative AI, it has implemented a generative AI model. They have a lot of generative AI checkers out there. Even when you go now to present to university, to conferences out there and journals out there, they're using things like Authentic is the name of it, Turnitin. You have things out there that can scan through your work, and then they can look for whether this has been generated or not. And how does it do that? It just looks for the language. You can after a while, you note the pattern of the language that comes from generative AI, and you're able then to tell whether, so I have been able now, in terms of assignments that students submit and stuff, when you read in it through, you can tell whether it was generative AI or not. So in terms of the universities, what they need to do is invest in these kinds of technology. They need to properly train and make their staff aware of what generative AI is, what are the considerations to be put in place to dealing with generative AI. One method of dealing with it is, in terms of the ethical considerations of cheating and plagiarism and stuff like that, is probably go back to the old days of a handwritten exam. Because we at UE in our department we've said, well, okay, if the coursework in the coursework component, if you are you have an exam, right, and you have assignments, then probably weight the assignments a little lower, right? So, and then with the coursework exam a bit higher, because with the coursework exam, student has to come and write on paper and pen and answer the questions. So that way, you change your assessment model. And not just go back to the old days. Change your assessment model on the whole, right? In terms of how you do assessments, in terms of even if you're doing online quizzes, probably put the answers as very as short answers or multiple choice questions, and so that you can try to frustrate the process in some way, as to prevent the use of generative AI. Educate as well. Educate your students in terms of the harms of generative AI. Educate them on the positive. So encourage them, and that's the thing. If you encourage it and you make it less taboo, then we always try to get away with something that we find that you tell us not to do it, and we will try to get away with it because you just want to prove that you can. So if you make it less taboo and you encourage it that these are the methods that you can use it in the classroom, but these are the methods that you should not, then it can help probably to sway the argument and sway the minds of students to help them to learn in a more efficient manner.
See, that was actually my next point in terms of embracing artificial intelligence in the classroom, because if I know myself, if my teacher is honest about saying he or she or they used AI to create a lesson plan or to help explain a topic to us, it would make me feel much more comfortable with saying, well, maybe I don't really understand the way you explained it. Let me use some sort of AI tool to explain it to me. For example, I know that there's this software that I personally use, but I can't remember the name right now, where you can put information into the system and it produces a podcast explaining it to you. That was such a big help for me during final examinations. I would be very, very honest. Yeah. So, go ahead.
And no, I was just going to say that's one that I've never heard about. And that brings me to the point that there are so many what we call AI, and it's not so many AIs, it's so many what we call chatbots, and different platforms that you can do so many different things. You could drop it here, as you said, generate podcasts, generate music, you can make videos, you can teach you computer programming, it can do all, they have one of everything, right? And there's so many out there. And people, as I say, people learn in different ways. So therefore, if these things are helping you to learn, then embrace it and learning in those ways, but not use it as your source of, not just reference. You can even use it as a source of reference, but not use it as your wholesale. And that's the thing about it. You have to take from it what's good, but not take it wholesale.
Actually, I wrote an article on this for my school in terms of how young adults are responding to artificial intelligence. Many people are open to it, but they just don't know enough about it. So that's why I always worry about that mass publication about information being out there, because I don't want people to get bamboozled by it. And then it comes across as if the Caribbean or our people are left behind. So that leads me to my next question as we begin to wrap up. Do you think that Caribbean institutions, educational institutions, are at risk of being left behind in the global conversation regarding generative AI?
I don't think so, and I believe because from a research perspective, the University of West Indies, and this is a Caribbean institution I could talk about being part of it, we have research that's going on across all of our campuses in this area. That's from a research perspective. So we are at the cutting edge of research, and we're able to bring that knowledge home. And then from an administrative standpoint, as I said, I have seen and I've heard of AI policies and that have been generated by the university to now deal with the matter, telling you, not just for students alone, for staff as well, as to how you can use it, how you can embrace it, how not to use it, what's the ethical considerations in it, right? If you do use it, make sure and you state that you have, and these kind of things. And once they're able to do these things, then they can remain at the same level like all international institutions as well.
So, okay, So let's go into advice that you may give to educators or policymakers that may be hesitant about AI. And I want it to be quick and casual. So we could say probably sitting at a bar, but you wouldn't be sitting at a bar because you are Hindu, if I'm correct. So let's say you're chilling outside with a couple of friends and other educators, and they say, "Nah, man, I can't really get behind this AI thing. My students, they're going to encourage my students to cheat. This, that, and the third." How would you ease their minds? What would you say to them?
What I would say, and this is a piece of advice that I take from my PhD supervisor in this conversation he had with me, that at the fundamental level, don't encourage the AI. Let them learn the real rigor, or learn how to go about doing something. Learn the fundamentals. Right? We learned in school 2 + 2 = 4. Let them learn these fundamentals at the beginning. Right? So in a year one situation, allow them to learn the normal way. Right? Encourage your students. This is how. But once you have learned the fundamentals, and you now move on to a sense of application and building upon the fundamentals, then you can encourage them. Here's what you can use: generative AI in the classroom, show them that they can get the responses out of this. Tell them, and talking to educators, tell them that they need to now stop looking at it as taboo. And that's one of the big problems. As I researched that, someone had reached out to us at UE to help them with as well, to make it, stop making it look as taboo and embrace it as part of the curriculum. Help them learn, help them to let educators use it as part of delivering course material to students.
So do you think it's beneficial for the ICNTT to mandate that all education institutions must have a course that says fundamentals of learning for year 1 students? It's just a joke, but what do you think about that?
That might be a bad idea. We actually thought about having a course in terms of proper communication, fundamentals of communication with students, because jokingly enough, you should see some of the emails that we get from students, the way they address you and the language, because me trying to keep up with the language and learning all of these acronyms and what they mean, and it's just mind-blowing.
There was a teacher that I engaged with, lovely lady, and she had a whole class, not a whole class, but just ranting after class, ranting about that. Guys, communicate properly. She put out this example of how to send an email, because she was like, I can't understand you. How are we going to connect if I can't understand you? Just as you said that, I remembered her mini rant to us one class evening. So as we begin to wrap up, I feel like we can go on for a while, just delving more into the topics that we spoke about, but this is kind of just hitting the beginning of it. I'm hoping you would be open to coming back on to talk more in depth.
Not a problem at all. Whenever you guys are ready, you could always give me a shout, and I will be glad to come back on and help to explain, because this is such a complex topic. As I say, we talk about it as if it's something that came about recently. And as I pointed out, this has been around since the 1950s, 1960s. So we're talking about 60, 70 years of knowledge to try and discuss. There's a lot in there. So anytime that you're ready, I'll be glad to join you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramkisoon. All right, so if anybody wanted to connect with you to maybe learn more about something we spoke about today, or just connect with you in general, how may they do that?
You can follow me on all my socials. Just Google, just search Amit Neil Ramkisoon, and you can get all of my socials out there.
All right, so that is Amit Neil Ramkisoon, AmitNeil Ramkissoon. Right? If anything, reach out to WESN, and well, you get me, and I'll get you the contact if you forget. But yes. Thank you so much for coming on and for offering your expert advice and knowledge to us. I enjoyed the conversation. I always enjoy a conversation about AI.
I hope it was educational. I hope it was on point, and I hope that your viewers learned something out of it.
I mean, I started learning from the moment you said congestion control. That's learning. So yeah, I started learning from there, and I'm sure the viewers learned a lot today too. So again, thanks so much for joining us, and have a wonderful day.
Same to you, and everyone have a great day.
Yes. All right. So with that, we're just going to take a short break, and we will be right back with you. Stay with us. This is AM Prime on WESN.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Do you need treatment for obesity or any related abdominal procedures? The community hospital now offers minimally invasive laparoscopic surgery done by an American-trained, board-certified surgeon with over 20 years' experience. Give us a call at 235-5479 for more information.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Money is something we all deal with, but how many of us truly understand it? What if you could make better decisions with your money? Decisions that secure your future, protect your family, and bring you peace of mind. I'm Darren Jacobs, and I'm here to help you make sense of your dollars. Welcome to Dollars and Cents, the show that breaks down the financial world in ways that matter to you. No jargon, no confusion, just real conversations about money, your money. So join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on WESN for Dollars and Cents.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Now you don't need to register nothing. You don't need. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
They believe in different criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
And we are back. So remember when I said in the beginning of the show that we were going to have some very interesting conversations for you today. So today we want to celebrate local businesses, small businesses, of course push entrepreneurship in the local space, as well as push women in business. So today we're joined by a powerhouse who truly knows what it means to thrive in business. She's faced some of life's toughest challenges head on, learning how to stay strong through adversity. As a mother and a business owner, she leads a successful company in a very male-dominated industry with grit and grace. She is the driving force behind 800 to 2, a 24/7 roadside assistance company. I bet you may have heard. So please welcome to the show, Ms. Candace Yearwood.
Good morning.
Good
Thank
morning.
you for having me.
How are you doing this morning? How do you usually get ready for your day, attack your day?
I would say the day doesn't end because it's a 24/7 business. So sometimes it feels like as though you're continuing to work, whether things may be closed for the normal public, as we always have to be ready to assist persons.
At any hour.
At any hour.
So I understand that you took over after your late partner who would have begun the business, started the business. So were you always involved in business, or did you have to learn everything after?
Fortunately, I was involved as he would have run the business before. So it was not a new learning curve for me. The issue that I had is that previously we would have divided stuff. And now that it fell on me alone, right? It took some adjusting because I can be very honest, a lot of the mechanical stuff I wasn't aware with. I was more briefed on the operational side, the accounting, the human resource. So taking over the entire operation took some time, some learning as well. But yeah, I continued day after day and tried to learn as I go along.
It would. I mean, you coming from a background where, and I hate it to say, but when you're on the business side or the operations side, people usually take that as like a woman's place.
That's correct.
So you having to now play both roles.
Both roles, right? And playing both roles while working at 8 to 4 corporate job, right? So I was, previously when I would have assisted him, I was still employed 8 to 4. So I would have had a part to focus on. And then when he passed in 2021, I still remained in my corporate job, and I would have ran the business while doing an 8 to 4 and doing his part and my part for 3 years.
That is amazing. So, on top of that, you are a mother.
Correct. And of course running business and still having to be a son, a mother to our son.
Yeah.
So it was a lot.
Yeah.
But I think with persistence and determination, I'm proud that I'm doing pretty well. Of course, there were times when you felt like, you want to throw your hands up in the air and say, this is not worth it. But when I think about all the hard work that he would have put in, I kept telling myself I can't let it go to waste, because I know it had many nights that, he would have operated on 2-3 hours sleep because you had this vision. Your vision is that you want to be recognized, you want to leave something for your generations to inherit, right? So I would have used that sometime as my driving force to continue pushing for the days when you feel like, you're saying, I really can't do this. And as I said, continue to learn as I grow, right? So
I want to ask though, based on what you're saying, how has that been in an industry like this where it can be very male dominated, and as a woman stepping into a leader position after having to take over the business, have you run into any challenges or faced any opposition from workers who may feel like, oh, I don't want to listen to this woman, like this woman who knows absolutely nothing, how have you dealt with that?
It was a good and a bad, because I would have had situations where there were plenty males, because most of my workforce is male. And they would have felt like they knew more than me, right? And then on the plus side, I would have used my feminine touch to sometimes get through to some of these guys, right? So when they understand that you empathize, you understand what they go through, I know that it's not an easy industry that we work in. From the time somebody shut down, it's a frustrating thing, right? There's nothing happy about it. So once I could have looked at it from a feminine perspective, which is understanding what somebody would want when they're in an emergency, I was able to kind of get through to majority of my staff and expand on what they already know. One thing that I also would have I still do it now. I'm not, although I'm in the leadership role, I always let my staff know that you can teach me. If you think that there's something from your perspective that I should do or that could benefit the company in the long run, I'm open to it. It's not that I am in charge and I just sit there, right? No,
You
so
have a rule, yeah.
I understand that they will have a male perspective, I would have a female perspective, and we could just see how we could gel it together. I also, from my approach, I'm very honest in terms of saying that I do not know. So when they have to explain something to me, if they have to say something wrong with the vehicle, I say I want to explain it to somebody who's slow. That's how I say it, right? So that they would be as very basic as possible. So if you tell me that, okay, the dry shaft, and I need to understand what is the dry shaft, and this is how I was able to expand on some knowledge in terms of mechanical, because before you just know to clean your windows, wipe, but you know where water going, right? So, you know, it is good that now if a customer call and they say certain things wrong with their vehicle, I'm in a position to say, no, this is not what you think it is. This probably might be another issue.
So have any of the male staff take advantage of that in a way, your ability to say, well, I don't know, humble yourself and say, I don't know, let me lead. Have they ever said, well, she didn't know nothing, boy?
To be honest, I think, but I cannot say for certain, that I was probably tricked in many cases. So, for instance, they may say that this wrong with the truck, I can't work. When if I knew, it's probably something that is wrong, but nothing that could prevent you from having to come out to work, right? So I think a lot of them would have seized the opportunity sometimes, right?
Would you have taken any opportunity to learn on your own rather than through them when it comes to the mechanical stuff?
Definitely. Because my focus before would have been education, and you wanted to study certain things. I am a knack for studying, right? So I have like just this desire to always want to read and learn things. So simple YouTube, like sometimes when they give me explanations and I think that is not, I would go and research it, right? So a lot of it would have been trying to understand the process. I also do comparisons. So if you tell me that something was wrong before and then something else similar to it, I try to compare so I can see if it's really genuine.
That sounds like women's intuition a bit.
A bit, right? But for a greater part, I have a really good team. I think at this point, the momentum is beyond what we would have expected. And I'm thankful and hope that it could continue with, of course, the necessary work that we need to continue to do.
So, I mean, what patterns or barriers do you think? I mean, we kind of spoke on this a little bit before, but unique to women in business, not just with your particular business, 800 to 2, but women in business in general. Do you think that we show up a little less strong than we should?
I think my advice would be to believe in yourself, because if you listen to the noise around you sometimes, it will discourage you to try, because it'll be like, that's not your field, or you know, this one, correct, right? So I think you need to believe in yourself, and from the start, once you have that momentum that yes, it can be done, the pieces fall into place, right? Even at my lowest, I maintained the 3 P's: pray, push, and promote. So even when things would have been in the worst situation ever, I think anybody looking in, they would believe that things were a bed of roses, right? So, and it's because I believed that it was a bed of roses, right? You put yourself in a position that it would become eventually. So as a woman, I think once you understand your strength, because sometimes we are even better than the males that think that we don't belong, right? Once you understand your strengths, you would be in a better place to propel. And For me, I think not for women only, but for business owners, what I would have learned is do things your way. Because for a long time, when my son's dad would have passed away, I tried to do things how he would have done it. Because I know he did it this way, I wanted to, but I needed to find to do it my way. And only when I sat and I looked at what could work for me is when I would have seen the turnaround in things shaping for Candace instead of Shiloh's way.
So can you share an example of something that you realized, okay, I have to take the reins and do it a little bit more my way instead of what was already done? Like, what is your female?
I wouldn't say female, but okay, so I've been in banking for a while, and the personality that Shiloh had is that he never liked owing. So if he have to get something, he would wait until he have the actual cash in his hand.
Yes.
And I would have tried that approach, and being a banker, you should know sometimes you need to depend on credit, right? And that change in sometimes doing things on a credit approach or not waiting until you have all the money, and just that would have helped me to move forward a little bit faster, right? And had I not followed his way for a long time, I think I would have been even more advanced than I am right now. One of his other approaches was being more stern, and whereas I had to be more sympathetic, because I think trying to be stern as female to men, it wouldn't be received well in comparison to if I try to the soft approach and try to sympathize with things that would the emotional part, right?
So if Shiloh was to take that approach, that
would not have worked for him, correct, right? So whereas he would have needed to say, do this, do that, no questions asked, I would have, basically, I would prefer you do this, and you will tell me how it would work out, so that, I'm trying to understand it from your perspective, but we really need to get this done.
So it's almost like you're controlling the situation by giving them a false sense of control.
Correct.
Like you're the one that's really puppeteering it.
Correct.
So can you tell me, what was the personal journey like for you from when 2021, I mean, you would have lost someone that was important in your life, that take care of the business, that gave to your family. From then to now, what's like the most powerful personal transformation you've seen in your life? And you can also add on your son's life as well.
The most personal transformation was basically not having that attitude of giving up. Like, because before it would have been the stress and everything it basically was Shiloh. It was easy for me to say, well, try something else, or, but that attitude of not giving up, and it's because you're looking at my son, and I know that his father want him to inherit something. So it's a twofold, and with my son, I think the personal part is me trying not to overcompensate, because sometimes I think that because he lost his father, and I need to sometimes shake up myself and say no, because you don't want to spoil him, you don't want to, do more harm than good. So a lot of it was really learning the balance, because my son is extremely smart. Like he really reminds me of his dad.
How old is he?
He is 9. Right? He would have just turned 6 when his father passed away. And he is extremely intelligent. So a lot of it is really the balance and knowing when to speed up and when to slow down.
So I know for your son in particular, what do you hope that you can teach him specifically?
I want to have him, apart from the operational, the on the road part, he's not involved there yet, but I want to have him involved in the business as early as possible. So it have certain things that he's already privy to.
Yes.
And I also try to show him in terms of this is not a for today thing. So like I may tell him I have a meeting and then, you know, it's ongoing. We want something that continues. So I want him to be very involved so that he works to build the business as well, and it's not that when he reaches 18 or 21, it just handed over to him, right? Yeah, so he needs to be very much involved and work towards it, because I think the genius that he is going to add a lot of value to it, right?
And I bet you knowing that and saying that and putting that into his life builds his confidence.
Correct, correct. Because, you know, I always try to guide him in terms of, yes, we know that there are certain persons that needs to work for the business, but I want him to, you know, be in this space that he could be a business owner. And you have to be the one that grows your business. You can't expect that the people around you alone will grow it. You have to be involved, because a lot of businesses go downhill when sometimes owners just decide that they would delegate and not be hands-on for a large part of it. So I want to have him really, really involved and see how best. And I also say if he don't like it, because, you know, we can't force him to like it, he still does something that he likes. This is just for him to, you know, get an early hands-on into it.
Approach to business.
Do you believe that, you know, mindset has a big part to play, or a big role to play in the success of your business? You know, and if so, then what do you do to keep your mind sharp in the face of any type of adversity, you know, through this journey?
Definitely mindset is a major part. What I think for me works is, I always say that the rain has to stop. So even when you feel like things is, you know, it have no turning back, it must stop at some point. And once you keep that approach that things are going to get better, it will get better. So as I said many times, when you feel like, oh my gosh, and then I look back and I say, but you know, you were in a worse place. It's how much months before when you got over that. So this is, you know, it's something easier. Why you know, you're dwelling on it. So I think, you know, keep that mindset that it is going to get better. You are going to make it better, and things work out itself. It works out itself.
So tell us a little bit more about 800-22. What do you guys do?
Okay, so we are a roadside assistance company that deals directly with the insurance, some insurance companies, and personal. We also do battery delivery, so any vehicle or anything that requires a battery, we come to you and we install and do everything. It's basically building a relationship with us, because once you purchase a battery, anything that may go wrong with that battery, you always have access to our after-sales service. We run 24/7. We operate in both Trinidad and Tobago, and there are no off days. The general staff on the field are males, and the office staff are females. We are a very, I want to say, family-oriented business, whereas you fall out with your family and you make back. So we have that close-knit that make things run much smoother, right? My company is, the staff, anybody knows that they have direct access to me, and I think because of that close relationship with the staff, we, as I said, the momentum is going beyond what I would have thought. I remember in a space when you were the one sending emails asking people to work with you, and now people reaching out because, of course, the services being mentioned. And you know, I think for a greater part, I am one of the top roadside assistance company, if not the top, right? Right, so 800-22 go in many places, hopefully, and what I would say the intention is to eventually move up the Caribbean and be a roadside assistance company for Guyana, Greendot, you know, just move up the region, right? Because the service that we give, because it is built on you actually have to care that somebody is in an emergency, right? It have that aspect of care. it separates us. If people look at our reviews, the Google search, you would see that the service that we give, it's impeccable. It had bad days, and you know, once as a business person you understand that you were not always good, and you find ways to make it right. That's what's, because I've never stood in a place and I say, well, a customer's feedback isn't welcomed, right? So it's always about ways that I can grow. So the good, the bad, and the ugly, we take it and see how best we can move forward from there.
What about customers that see, when you're so frustrated in an incident like that and you have to go to work, you have to do X, Y, and Z, and somebody comes to help you, but you can't even accept the help, you're shouting, you're carrying on and getting on. How do you deal with that?
I think we remind them that we are here to help, because I think a lot of times when customers call us, from the initial call, they feel like you are against them, and what we could give them, that assurance that we are here to help you, somewhere or the other we are here to help you, it actually changed the tone in which the conversation would go. So yes, the underlying fact is we are here to help. We want to solve your problem. We want to get you in a position where that frustration could, you know. So it would have times that I would remind my drivers, I would remind the staff that, remember, the customer is not vexed with you. They're vexed with the situation, right? So you need to take an approach that not if they go up, you go higher. You need to come bring them down, right? So once we keep that approach that we are here to help, it feels really good, because I would have many times go along with drivers or reps on jobs, and it feels really good when somebody says thank you, you saved the day, you know. So it goes beyond just doing a job, but you want to really connect with your customers and let them know that, because if my truck breaks down, I feel the frustration, so I know what you feel, right? Our vehicles sometimes have the same issues as well, right? So it's not that, you know, we always say, don't feel like you're harassing us. That's because sometimes customers will call and they'll say, sorry, at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm not bother you. No, you're not harassing us, right? We are here to help you. And that mindset is what really separates the service that you would give, because you want to help.
And that is what I would say is a true approach to business. So just as we wrap, can you tell the viewers any last words? What do you want people to take away from you as Candace Yearwood and 800-2?
Okay, what I would say is believe in yourself, believe in the vision that you have. Whether or not it was started by you, it was continued on. You need to believe in it. I would say bad days don't last forever, and once persons could continue to push forward, what is for you is going to definitely end up for you.
Thank you so much for those words.
Thank you.
Thank you
for having me.
Yes, it's amazing to have you on the show. I know that we were kind of nervous in the beginning.
Correct.
But you were amazing. It was amazing to have this conversation with you, and I'm sure Naomi can attest to that as well.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much.
So guys, stay with us. We have another very important and interesting conversation coming up next. We are on the hour and we'll be right back with you, so stay with us.
WESN. Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.